Hello and welcome to another episode of Marriott MBA Today. My name is Josh Skelton, your host, and with us today is Zack Oates, second year MBA marketing track, consulting internship, and entrepreneur. Zack, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries, man.
So Zack, I was really impressed during the Sherpa office hours, a story you told about making first impressions and how important that is, and a skill set you built up as a recruiter, right? Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a little bit about what those first impression cues are that you're looking for and kind of that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did recruiting. I did about 200 interviews in a year, and one of the main things was the first impression. So pretty much the interview lasted from the moment we made eye contact until the time that we sat down for the interview. That was the entire duration of the interview. Now, out of those 200 interviews, there was only one time that I ever changed my mind. And basically, one of the main things that they did to make that first impression is, first of all, like the handshake, okay? So the web of your finger goes into the web of their finger, like right in there, and just get a little firm handshake in there.
Feels good.
Yeah, right? It just like feels natural, right? The people, when you go in there and it's like the dead fish and like you go, or you miss it entirely and you hit oh man, that's so awkward. So I just look for how aware were they of where I was and how good was that first handshake, right? Just to make that initial connection. Something else that was super important was eye contact. So when they did that handshake and they introduced themselves, what was their eye contact like? Was it, were they kind of like looking around at other things, or were they nervous, or were they like sweaty and kind of awkward, or were they just confident in who they were? And that's something that was so important, is that confidence, because no matter what you're doing, you need to have that confidence and, obviously being willing to admit when you're wrong, but being willing to stick up for yourself, because there's a lot of times in life when, during negotiations or really any meeting where it could get pushed the wrong way if you're not confident in your decisions and the things that you know are right. And most importantly, yourself.
Yeah.
So the eye contact, the handshake, and then once we got to the desk, most of these interviews were at restaurants, so once we got to the table, I would decide, when they were sitting there, which side of the table would they sit on. Now, I didn't care if they picked a side or if they asked me what side, but if they were like waffling, like, oh, I'll sit booth or chair or booth, or just pick something. It's not that big of a deal. So that was something that was super important. And then by that point, when we sat down, we had the handshake, the eye contact. I saw how they interacted with other people in the hallways. If they're friendly, they're polite, they're courteous, and they are decisive and confident, then awesome. And I think those are super, super important features to a great first impression.
Great ideas. So you mentioned that you did change your mind once. What was it about that particular candidate that made you change your mind?
I mistook his wafflingness for kindness. And he was just like a really genuinely kind guy. And so he was like, oh, should I sit here or should I sit there? And he was kind of like waffling. And the eye contact wasn't like, very solid. He didn't seem like he was very confident. But he was a very unique case. And just that he was just like a really like gentle guy, like super kind, super nice. And, like I said, I started off the interview. We sat down and it was pretty much like, hey, what questions do you have for me? Because I wasn't going to really waste my time interviewing him. But he ended up asking some really intriguing questions, being very curious. And so ended up hiring him and ended up being a great decision.
Excellent. So how did you use your knowledge and this background experience as being a recruiter in your internship search?
So I had an internship with PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, this summer in Dallas. And they came on campus to recruit. And one of the interesting things was I was able to make a really good connection with one of the main recruiters there. And when I showed up for my interview, I actually showed up pretty much like looking like this, right? I had a sports coat on, I had casual pants, I had a button-down shirt that was unbuttoned, and just like super casual. I have no idea what I was thinking. I just like completely spaced the fact I should be wearing a suit and tie to an interview. And so the first question the guy asked me was, when I walked in, he's like, what are you wearing? Like, where's your suit and tie? But as it turns out, because I developed such a good relationship with him and made a good first impression and maintained that first impression by keeping in touch with him, he said, you know what, we'll let this one slide. But next interview, I want to make sure that you're in a suit and tie. So I was in a suit and tie for all my other interviews for sure.
Did you have your signature cool socks on?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if we could. Absolutely. Always with the socks.
Excellent. It's a great trademark. Well, great. Those have been some great thoughts. Glad your internship at PwC was a success. Any other thoughts or closing remarks that you'd like to let our viewers know about making first impressions and making a lasting one?
Yeah. Well, can I like talk to them? Is that like a kosher thing to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's what I would say is really know your why, right? That's what the confidence comes from, is understanding why you're doing what you're doing and why the company that you're going after is such a good fit. One of the things I've done with a lot of people is I'll have them say, okay, if I give you $1 billion today, deposit in your bank account, in 5 years, what would you be doing with your life? What would your time be spent doing after you've like saved the world from Ebola and, cured poverty and like traveled the world? After all that, what would you do with your day? And really like talk about that and write it out. And then for each major thing that you would do during your day, figure out why you would do that. Use a Toyota 5 why method. Ask yourself why 5 times until you get to a core motivation. And those are your whys of life. And when you know those whys, everything else just kind of clicks. And it allows you to truly live an extraordinary life, because I really do believe that in the end, an ordinary one will always be waiting. You could always go get some middle management position. You could always go, work for your dad. Why not try to do something really extraordinary? And so that's what I would say is live that extraordinary life, because there are so many incredible opportunities out there, and this world is so beautiful as long as we make it such and really go out there and don't wait to do it. Don't wait until after you graduate, after your job, after you've made money. Do something now. Figure out your whys now, today, and that will give you so much more confidence to go forward tomorrow.
Wow. I feel inspired, and I'm sure our viewers will as well. Thank you for sharing that message with us. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, thank you, Josh.
And thank you, viewers, for watching another episode of Marriott MBA Today.